So here's a root collar. Doesn't look so bad, does it? But then, if we get up, we go around, we've excavated. Uh-oh, that's a lot deeper than we thought. There's a whole bunch more to go to clean this out. It's being covered up by dirt. But you can see this is where the root flare really occurs. This is putting out adventitious roots to try to compensate and get some air down into the area that had been smothered all the way up to here. So this was buried a good 5, almost 6 inches, way too deep. Okay, so today we're going to talk about an often overlooked element of getting a good tree established. This is a unique, beautiful little specimen. This is actually a chinkapin oak. Kind of uncommon. You'll see a lot of these. It's got these beautiful leaves. But this is evergreen as an oak species. So it's a wonderful little specimen. Recently installed. We can see that they have staked it, but you notice they took out the center stake, so this trunk is allowed to move. That's an important part of establishing a tree, so it'll develop the trunk taper and the tissue strength to support the tree as it develops. So moving in the wind is a good thing, and getting that stake off the back prevents it from doing physical damage by rubbing against the trunk. The next important thing to check is the installation depth, where it was planted. The base of a tree, this is called a root crown. The root crown is an important part of the tree because this is bark. Bark is developed to keep the water inside the tree, whereas roots do the opposite. They take water in through the outside, and that's how the water comes inside and up through the tree. But this area at the base is called the root collar. This is a transition zone for the tree. It's also an area that the tree will use to do a gas exchange. So what we want to do is we want to check this level and see how was this done. Is this collar at the appropriate level? In other words, does the tree flare out where the roots begin? See how this is starting to go? I'm opening this up. Very often, people will install this and they think, oh, I'll tuck it in nice and deep. Well, you don't want it deep. I don't want water and moisture on the trunk, on the bark. I want this down in the root zone. So we want to open this up. This isn't bad at all. Sometimes you'll see them very, very deep, and that can cause serious problems with decay. This is not so bad, and this is at a more appropriate level. So this is more what we want to have, is a nice exposed root flare that's going to promote healthy growth, good development to the tree, and keep it growing in a sustainable manner. You also notice these irrigation points have been put outside and not in on the trunk. Again, this is bark tissue. It shouldn't be wet or we'll get disease. So here's another new installation example we want to talk about. So a couple things about the way this was done in particular, okay? We can see this was done with the tree transport stake left intact. This is going to keep the tree weak, and we're going to take this off and I'll show you what it can do as far as actual physical damage to the tree. The outrigger ties were not exactly done well. They're kind of flopping around. We'll try to see if we can tighten those up and get that to solve that problem. So let's actually deal with this tree stake first, because I want to be able to move this thing around, okay? These stakes are meant to be installed in the nursery to transport and keep the tree movable, so they can move the tree by grabbing onto the stick instead of moving on the trunk, which would cause root damage into the root ball, which we don't want. Now again, this is going to be in there kind of tight, so I can't get it. The trick here is our good old friend channel locks. These are designed to get this. We're going to go ahead and twist this until it gets loosened up. But because it's already inside of here, I got to twist it and take it up all the way the long way, instead of just being able to pull it out before I put those ties on there. But we're not going to remove those at this point. So you see I pull this out up through here, right? But here's the important part, okay? I want you to see the damage this has done. Rubbing against the tree, all this wounding, this is all going to interfere with the water flow up the trunk, the tissue. It's caused all these wounds, could be entry points for disease and pests. So now we have trees wounded, but now it's free to move. What I do see, now that it's moving, is back to the root flare we talked about. Okay, so here's another example. You see this guy is not really very happy. Had some unfortunate pruning cuts up top. That doesn't help. A lot of excess sun into the canopy. These guys need this protection in their canopy to keep going. Once again, we see the transport stake was left intact. So we're going to take this off first, because this is going to cause a lot of problems, as I said. So let's get this out of here and see what's going on. This one, again, we can see is really in there. So let's get this out. Let's see what we got. All right, here's another example. Quite a bit of damage. Early in here, old wounds. They've been healing. We have all this damage coming up the trunk. I see these wounds causing pinch points, wear spots, and damage between this. So all this new foliage is supposed to create the structural branches now have all this damage to deal with. As much as we want to get rid of this, we have to leave these on until this can get enough health and strength to even support having those removed to develop the ultimate structure. Okay, so this had some challenge here. Let's check the root flare into the depth here. Let's move this out. You see, it doesn't look like it was that bad. It's a little deep. It would appear much of this tree's problems. See how we're getting the rot and decay? Even where that transport stake went down below ground surface, you see how this being exposed to water? It's creating like a fungally decay type situation where it's all wet and gummy. This is not good at all. Okay, so we've completed the root collar excavation. You see we got this thing down a good, what, 5, almost 6 inches of dirt, wet, gooey stuff covering this up before we got to this, which is the actual flare. So all this excess soil had to go. You can see the dark soil here. This is the original container mix from the nursery. This is where we need to be down to, not putting this extra layer of dirt on top. We're gonna place these air emitters out away from the trunk and then get some decorative rock back in here. Just gonna let this breathe, let it heal, dry out, and prevent disease, and cross our fingers and hope the best for this poor little guy. So even if we got the excess dirt out, you see this is the nursery soil, there was an inch of this stuff on top of here as well. So make sure you clean out from the container that's in the nursery. Remember, they add extra soil because they're washing things constantly. So make sure you get all the way down to actual true root flare where the roots are coming out. That way you're gonna ensure good oxygenation